For the Tier 2 Championship, we're here at the Circuit de Villeneuve for the Canadian Grand Prix. I'm joined today in the commentary booth by ISRL Knight. Great to have you in the commentary booth and great to commentate with you for the first time as we get set for action in round number 6 of the championship.
Hey, pleasure to be here. We got, good race coming up, hopefully. Canadian Grand Prix. Got some fast guys on the grid. Obviously, Mr. Cool and Jedi looking to keep their little battle for the championship going with only 2 races here. And how far apart there? I think it's under 10 points at this.
It definitely was under, especially after that horrid Italian Grand Prix for Mr. Cool, which did not go his way at all. So it will be exciting to see how things unfold here at Canada. Of course, a track which has
95-91 right now between the two of them. So
a track which has given us so much action over the years. Of course, I was just watching recently, they uploaded the 2011 race here in Canada, which is arguably the best race of the last decade. It was not Germany. As we are getting set for action here for short qualifying, which is 18 minutes of non-stop action. Drivers are allowed to set as many laps as they want to put on the fastest lap time possible. And
this is where you see some drivers shine there. It's less about luck, like a one-shot qualifying would be.
Ooh, and it is heavy rain.
Yeah, more to add into the driver's skill category there. I was going to say you got a couple of tries here to set your best lap time. So you mess up once, your qualifying's not over. You get at least another 2 or 3 tries. If you're very quick about it, you can even set 4 full flying laps here in qualifying. So drivers going to get a couple of tries to see who can shine best, set their best lap times. The rain is going to make it tiny bit tricky, I would think. Going to be interesting to see what the race is going to be like. But this is a very fast track, so when it's wet, very easy to send the car around. There are some walls at a couple of spots around the circuit that are quite easy to hit, so drivers are going to have to be careful around some of these corners.
And it is ISRL Lewis who is coming out of the pit lane. He'll be the first one on track. Let's ride on board of him as he takes us around this track named after the famous Formula 1 driver who, of course, died far too early in his career, Gilles Villeneuve, as he gets ready for a lap around here. And ISRL Knight, do you want to take us to a lap as he comes around and tell us about the big parts of this track? What do you want to get down right to get the best lap time?
Yeah, absolutely. This track has a couple of chicanes, basically. It's some straights, some chicanes, and a hairpin. There's not a ton of, high-speed corners. It's about nailing your braking points, getting a very, very good exit because, as you can see, Lewis is coming up to one right now. It's not, I guess it counts as a chicane. If it's the definition of a chicane, it's a bit wider than the regular chicanes, so you can carry a lot of speed through it. But if you get that turn-in point wrong, you're going to lose a lot of speed on the straight ensuing. Same thing with this hairpin here. It's all about getting the right exit because on this track, it's very, very high speed. Minute 7, minute 8 for qualifying lap times in the dry. So if you don't maximize your speed down the streets, you're going to be quite a couple of tenths down at the end of a lap here. Obviously, a lot of iconic corners. There's a wall of champion there that we see him cross right as he's about to start his lap. A very famous Salut Gilles text mark under the start-finish line. He goes very wide there.
That was a very bad run through there as somebody else is coming out of the pits behind him, and I think he'll abort that lap now.
It just went a little bit deep in the Santa S's turn 1 and 2 there. It's a bit tricky. You're coming in from a track going a little bit right. It's a quick left right there, down into second gear for turns 1 and 2. And if you miss your braking point, the track kind of loops back around there. And we saw Grosjean do it in real life there last year's race where he ended up going straight through. I think we see Rosberg do it in the past as well. So you got to nail your braking point or else you might end up collecting some people on the other side of the racetrack.
Riding on board of Mr. Cool right now. Of course, he has to rebound this round as he had a terrible Italian Grand Prix filled with issues throughout the race. So hopefully he can put on a good show here and put the fight to the championship. Again, only 5 points separating them, and I'm sure it wouldn't have been that gap had he had not had such a awful race. It must be said, considering his pace as he's coming now down the straight, which would normally be a DRS zone, but of course under wet conditions, DRS is not permitted on track. As he's going to come into the chicane now, this is a valid lap, so we'll see how far he can go up on the grid. There are still no lap times set on the board right now, and it's Lewis is going to go fast with a 124.2. He's going to be the first person to go across. Here comes Mr. Cool, and it's going to be a 123.1, and he puts it on pole position by over a second over ISRL Lewis, who I believe is reserving today.
Yeah, Lewis just filling in there. I don't think we've seen him in Tier 2 yet. We have seen him reserved for Tier 1 and Tier 3. Well, I mean, he races in Tier 3. Yeah, one of our new drivers. He joined halfway through the season, been very eager to make his mark on the ISRL series. He's got pace. He's very young, but he's definitely got pace. So only looking to improve as time goes on. He's going to be a very interesting driver to watch for Season 3.
Jedi Ant is in the lead right now with 121.8 on pole position. Oh, that's a retirement from, it looks like, Matt's 9555. He has had a retirement on track somewhere. It looks like Wall of Champions. It looks like he's had a crash. Yep, it's Wall of Champions for sure.
Very tricky corner, the Wall of Champions. Lots of people getting caught out by it, especially so in the rain when the curves are slippy. It's a little bit easier to kind of take a little bit too much loose grip on those front tires, so then you can't steer the car away from the wall. Matt's, obviously, you may have known him as Northman the past couple races. He started as Matt's 9555, had a bit of a name change. He's back to his original name, so just to avoid any confusion, it's still the same Red Bull as it was the previous weeks. It's just changed the username back.
Spoo on, or I guess we can call him Spoon, is fourth fastest at the moment. Lewis going second fastest, 122.0, so not too far off of Jedi Ant's time. Times are quite close, the slowest time being Alex Joe for 124.5. I definitely think he can improve on that one. Heavy rain conditions in qualifying. We have been confirmed we will have a dry race. So a dry race. We don't know if we'll get rain in the future. I don't have any confirmation on that, but this is another, as we saw in Tier 4, we had rain all the time in that race, and it is coming down hard here in this 18-minute qualifying session, which is just about coming to the 12-minute mark.
Yeah, the Tier 4 race yesterday was definitely an interesting one. I'd be quite surprised to see it happen again here, but we're going to have to keep an eye out on the weather. Yesterday, basically, it started raining very early on in the race, probably lap 13 or 14, the first raindrops started falling, but it wasn't until 2 laps to go that the track finally got wet enough for inters, and so we saw a couple drivers gambling under a safety car and in the pit stops. It turns out in the end that the entire podium were the guys who stuck out on those slick tires on this very wet track. The last couple laps were just inching through the track, trying not to hit the wall. But if we get a scenario like this again with some of these drivers having experience doing that yesterday, it'll be interesting to see how long these guys stick out on the slicks. Like you said, I don't think it's going to be drying up for this qualifying session. We might not even have to worry about it. The whole race might be dry. But if it is, this track is certainly one where the variable conditions bring out pretty interesting races.
Interesting to talk about with the rain. Are we going to see, obviously being with a dry race, do you set the car up for a wet qualifying, or do you put on the default? Because the default around Canada, to be fair, is not a terrible setup around here. So I think drivers might be making default setups, I think, possibly, as they definitely want to be fast during the race. And I can tell you one thing, having a wet setup on a dry track, I think, is worse than a dry on a wet.
A dry setup on a wet track, if you want to improve it, it's just a matter of bumping up your front wing aero a tiny bit, maybe adjusting your differential, and you can make that dry setup work. But if you're rocking a wet setup on a dry track, you're going to lose a lot of time. You're probably going to be struggling with tire temps, since wet setups tend to be a little bit easier on the tires, since as we know, these grooved wet tires tend to overheat a lot easier as the track dries up. So yeah, like you said, I will have to agree, having a wet setup on a dry track tends to be a little bit worse. So if I'm these drivers, they have this weather information we don't right now. For all we know, it could be bright and sunny the whole race, and these guys are all driving with their dry setups right now. But yeah, if I can't see anybody taking a wet setup just for quality and risking the race on it if we're not going to see any rain.
Lorenzo is 4th fastest. Cruz has gone faster than Jedi Ant by about 1/10 of a second, so 121.7 on pole position in the Mercedes. So let's go over the lineup real quick right now. There's a lot of drivers in the pits and a few on outlaps. We have Cruz in pole position, Jedi Ant in 2nd, ISRL Lewis in 3rd, 4th for Lorenzo. Fallen Monkeys is running off your top 5 at the moment. It is Spoon in 6th, Jordan JT in 7th, Alex Juh in 8th, Mr. Cool in 9th, and out of the qualifying and rounding off the top 10 is Matt's 9555. So that might change as we have a bunch of drivers down there who have no time at the moment, which is Yuri, Chilmo, we have LAS Chris, and Mivako in 14th in the Rich Energy Haas car, as it still is known in this game. They never removed the Rich Energy name, surprisingly enough, but as we're getting down now in the time, we just have about 8 minutes and 30 seconds left to go in the session, so it starts to getting crunch time now. Drivers might be pushing it a little bit more to get on pole position here, as Lorenzo is coming around again, so I'm not too sure why he's doing that, because this is not, I don't believe, going to improve his time. No, it's going to be in the 123s.
Yeah, it is possible we are going to see some drivers here, especially if you have a wet race, just setting lap times just to get a feel of the car and see how their setup reacts, maybe on longer runs or with various fuel loads. You can adjust the fuel load in qualifying. It's not one of the parts of the car that gets restricted by Park for May, so could see some drivers out here just setting in banker laps just to get a real good feel for the car. Lorenzo having a spin there. What happened to him? Yeah.
He had an issue, so I think he was going again. He was going again for a lap. Oh, he's been disqualified for going the wrong way. Oh, that is a tough. And I don't want to. I'm not gonna give that against Lorenzo because he had to spin the car around. So I don't know what the game wants him to do. But unfortunate for him, he's been disqualified.
Yeah. This is purely just this game being its buggy old self. I was on board with him. He spun the car around and he saw that there was a car coming, so he was just gently gliding backwards off the racetrack, actually, out of the way, just waiting for a gap so he could spin the car around, and the game disqualified him pretty quickly there. Unfortunately for him, yeah, he's going to start at the back of this grid for today's Grand Prix.
I want to ride on board of, I believe ISRL Lewis is setting a lap right now. He's on that hot lap mode as he's a little squabbly through the chicane right there, coming up to the end of Sector 1. And it's a Sector 1 purple, though, for Lewis right now. He's sitting second on the grid right now, and he is sliding that car around these turns. And sometimes sliding is just part of the game. It's kind of hard to keep it so steady, and sometimes steady actually might be slower sometimes in the rain, especially in these conditions, as he's coming through that uphill section, flying through there, very good through that section as he's about to come up to this hairpin, which is very easy to lose your braking, and I'm sure he might be braking a little bit earlier than he normally would, as he just hits it perfectly, rotates the car well, obviously shifted way down in gears, coming now down to the straight. Again, no DRS, and there's no slipstream from him either, but it's looking good right now as he's coming towards the chicane into the Wall of Champions. Can he keep it out of the Wall of Champions, which has claimed so many lives in the past? As he comes through there, pretty easy does it, as he's going to come across the line. Let's see what this time is going to be from Lewis. And it is going to be pole, a 120.9, and that is a very impressive lap in wet conditions here in qualifying with just under 6 minutes left to go in the session.
Yeah, great lap from Lewis there. Fastest sector 3 as well. I saw that line he took through the final chicane and I guess away from the Wall of Champions, and absolutely nailed it. I think that's where he gained most of his time. Just kept the car so steady, took it so smoothly, and it pays off for him. He's almost a full second there ahead of P2. Obviously, Cruz has not set another lap time yet. He's coming out of the pits right now trying to probably give an answer to Lewis, but great lap from Lewis there. He gets himself towards the front of his grid there for today's Grand Prix.
I want to talk about Jordan JT here. He's about to start a lap. Jordan JT, of course, a very talented driver. When he is on pace, he is absolutely on fire as he slides it out of the final corner and is about to start his lap. And let's see what he can put on the board here. But Jordan JT, as fast as and dangerous as they come when he is on the mark. And we'll see what he can do here. And it's going to be a dry race, ladies and gentlemen. So we're going to be seeing some much better racing than we would in the wet. But it's going to be interesting if Jordan can put that car up further up the grid and possibly put himself into win contention here today as he comes sliding. And oop, that is end plate damage on that Williams car, and I think he might have just aborted. Yep, he has aborted that lap.
There he goes. Yeah, Jordan, fifth in the championship right now. He's got 49 points, but in reach of third. The way the championship works right now, obviously we mentioned it earlier, Mr. Cool and Jedi Ant, 95, 91 points respectively at the front there. They're the ones battling for the championship. But we got quite an interesting battle there for third. We have Cruz at 57, LAS Chris at 52, and Jordan at 49. So one good result could very, very much alter the outcome of the standings here. Jordan, obviously he's a little bit of an unassuming driver, and I don't mean that in the bad way, but he's not battling for first. He's not getting in big incidents. He's keeping his car alive all the way to the end of the race and raking in the good results. I believe he has a podium or two this season, but not the kind of guy that we're going to get a lot of screen time on.
Want to talk about Jedi Ant. Jedi Ant fastest in the second sector, so looking to get on pole. He's the third fastest ahead of his teammate, Mr. Cool. This is the battle for the championship here. Again, 5 points separating these drivers, so the top positions are crucial if you want to be in good contention here, as he's going to come into the final chicane, keep it out of the Wall of Champions. He does so, kisses the Wall of Champions there, actually. And let's see, coming across the line, Jedi Ant will go third fastest only.
Does he improve his lap time? I'm not sure. But interesting here, we got Mr. Cool starting his right behind his teammate. So he's going to be looking to answer Jedi there, even though Jedi did not go up in the order. But it'll be, I'm curious to see if Jedi Ant is going to give him a tow or anything on the back straight. They're in position to do that, but with the championship so close, wonder if they're going to be playing as teammates or championship rivals.
Faster in the first sector for Mr. Cool. Not fastest, but he is faster than before by about 0.04 of a second, so he definitely wants to improve in the second sector here. Mr. Cool, the teammate of Jedi Ant. Now, I do want to mention, he is starting behind his McLaren teammate. I'm assuming Jedi Ant doesn't want to give him any slipstream, because at this point in the championship, I know your guys are teammates, but it kind of becomes no holds barred. No, maybe he is going to slow up, because you can see him coming around now, the hairpin. Mr. Cool might get lingers of slipstream off his team. We'll have to wait and see if what happens here. But, oh, no, that McLaren is slowing up, so he is going to give him a little... Nope, that was Chris, actually, sorry. Chris slowing up, so interesting for Mr. Cool there. He got some slipstream that Jedi Ant did not get as he goes into the pit lane, coming through the final chicane. Here comes Mr. Cool on the charge for pole position here. Will he get it? Comes across the line, and it's going to be a good one here, folks, and it's going to be second fastest. It's a 1:21.0, and that is hundredths of a second difference between Mr. Cool and Lewis. Amazing scenes here in qualifying. We got to talk about Cruz here as well, though, as he is about to set another lap, I believe, and he's got full ERS. He is down by about 0.7 of a second, but don't count him out either. He's got that Mercedes at the helm. It's a good car to drive. Let's see if he can put it on pole.
Yeah, Cruz, I think just starting his lap here, he's had quite a few good races recently. He was a little bit absent from the action at the start of the season, but 5th place in Italy. Of course, his podium in the Japanese Grand Prix, finishing
Spoon.
2nd there.
Spoon is retired from the session. I believe he did in the pit lane, so we don't have to worry about that.
Probably just
faster for Cruz first sector.
Yeah, not Spoon thinking he's not going to set another lap time. He's going to get the spectator mode till the end. But yeah, Cruz, some good results recently that kind of raised him up the championship order. This is why he's in 3rd right now, and looking to improve that today.
He just cut the corner there. Not an invalidation by Cruz, so that's interesting. I don't know if he's going to back off from the lap. He has. I don't know. He's not using any ERS on my screen, but he definitely cut the corner there. I'm not seeing an invalidation. No,
yeah,
he is aborted.
Yeah, he's backed off here. So Cruz, I guess, getting very lucky not to cut that corner there. If I were him, I will admit I would have kept going. Don't know how much time he lost going deep there, but if the lap doesn't get invalidated, I would have at least tried to make it to the end. Looks like Cruz is going to start P3 unless Jordan has something to say about it, but I don't think Jordan is on a lap either.
No, he is not. Chomo is on a lap, and he's just getting it around the hairpin.
Yeah, last driver on a hot lap here, Chilmo in the Ferrari. Both Ferraris starting towards the back as it stands right now. Of course, Lorenzo with the unfortunate disqualification, and it looks like Mo is also going to abandon this lap. So I think we have our final grid order.
I believe we do. I don't believe Jordan will be doing another lap. No, he will go into the pit. So that is your, unless Mivako, he is not on a lap. In fact, he's on low fuel, and I'm sure he will retire on track. Oh, do we have, is it Lewis? Is Lewis? No, Lewis is not going. So
he is going, but no, he's just going to dive into the pits.
So that is your grid order, ladies and gentlemen. And there is your man, Lewis, on pole position. Mr. Cool in 2nd. Cruz in 3rd, and very crucially, I think, for Jedi starting 4th. That is not a good spot to be in, especially in this high-stakes championship. It's these kind of positions that really matter in terms of points gaps for the championship as we come near the final round in the United States Grand Prix. Moving down in the Americas, we're here in Canada, and we will then move to Austin, Texas for the Circuit des Americas for the United States Grand Prix. But there's your order, top 5. It's Lewis, Mr. Cool, Cruz, and Jedi in 4th. 5th for Jordan JT. It's 6th, 7th for Fallen Monkeys and Chris. Spoon in 8th. 9th for Alex Ja. And I'll go over the rest of the grid order in just a second. And 10th is Mivako, Chomo in 11th. 12th for Mats 9555. And it is Kokek in 13th. Lorenzo is in last with a disqualification. We want to say Yuri did not set a time either. Neither did Matt. So 3 drivers not having a good time here in qualifying. It's going to be a dry race. And it will be interesting to see how drivers get along here. Who put on dry setups. Who tried defaults. We'll have to wait and see what was the strategy for most drivers. And Lewis, though. So Lewis did put in a better time at the end of qualifying here. You can see that's a 23. So he is 7/10 ahead of Mr. Cool.
That went kind of under the radar there, I got to admit. I don't think anybody noticed that one, but yeah, improving his lap again. Lewis making a strong case for himself to get into Tier 1 next season. I definitely think the league needs to give him a good look. Came in halfway through the season, or near the start of this season, actually. He's been absolutely tearing it up since.
It's a happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there as we get ready for race day here in Tier 2 in the Canadian Grand Prix. As we're just getting ready, sessions start in 25 seconds. All right, so Knight, what are some of your predictions coming into the race? Who's going to come out on top, you think? And who are we going to see possibly make some mistakes? We do have a few drivers in here who have been prone to it. Let's see what happens. What do you think is going to happen here?
Obviously, a bit of a shorter grid today because of, as you mentioned, Father's Day. A couple of drivers missing for some family festivities. So some of our usual candidates aren't in here. Of course, ISRL Mushroom and the likes are missing, which means I'm going to have to go with You know what? I think I'll put my my eggs in the Jedi Ant basket. He's starting in 4th. He's starting on the softs. I see Cruz there in the Mercedes, starting on the medium tires. So I think Jedi Ant's going to be able to clear him in the first corner, and then kind of work with his teammate to get past Lewis. And I'm predicting a bold strategy call later in the race to give him the lead. That's my call for the day.
And let's go over your grid order one more time, ladies and gentlemen, for this Canadian Grand Prix. If you're just joining us, this is ISRL Esports. It's round number 6 of the Tier 2 Championship in the world of Formula 1. And there is your starting lineup. It's ISRL Lewis on pole position ahead of Mr. Cool in the McLaren. Cruz 9K in the Mercedes rounds off your top 3. It's Jedi Ant in 4th and Jordan JT rounding off the top 5. Fallen Monkeys in 6th, LAS Chris in 7th. Spoon will start in 8th. Alex Ja in 9th. Rounding off the top 10 is Mivako in the Haas F1 car. Chilmo in 11th in the Ferrari. Mats, Yuri, and Lorenzo all did not set times. They will start 12th, 13th, and 14th respectively. Lorenzo getting disqualified from the session. He would have started higher up the grid, we believe, but unfortunately getting disqualified after going the wrong way. A little bit of a bad situation for him in the race. As they come around the hairpin here, ladies and gentlemen, the AI will start to take over the cars around the halfway, down near the halfway point of the straight, and we will get ready for 5 red lights to go on and off for this Canadian Grand Prix.
I think Mats and Yuri, kind of a tactical decision not to set lap times, going on the harder tires at the back of the grid and just trying to stick it through the Grand Prix, go for the softer, faster tire compound near the end. Could pay off if there isn't a very early safety car, and with the shortened grid, that might be the case. If we only get our safety car around lap 13 or 15 or so, these guys at the back that didn't qualify put the harder tires on and are just trying to make it late into the race. They're going to have a huge advantage over our front runners.
So it's ISR Lewis lining up on pole position, Mr. Cool next to him. Let's get ready, ladies and gentlemen. 5 red lights in just a few moments' time.
Let's hope we don't get any of our traditional red light lag there. We can get a proper good start.
And here we go. Getting ready. And it's 1 light, 2 lights, 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights at the Canadian Grand Prix. And it's the lights out, and away we go. And it's Lewis who gets a fantastic start off the line. Cruz into second. Jedi Ant got a good start. Mr. Cool side by side of him, but he gets into turn number 2 ahead of Jedi Ant. And it's Jordan who's staying in 5th. Mivako has had a fantastic start, up to 6th in this race. Fallen Monkeys and Mats are up as well. LAS Chris, Lorenzo up to 10th. He's had a good start. Spoon has had a terrible start, down in 12th now. Yuri and Alex Ja as well have had pretty bad starts, but Lewis got away fantastically off the line. And I'm falling on board right now with Jordan JT, who is also quite close to Jedi Ant, maybe trying to get into 4th position. And look at Mivako, he had a fantastic start, already up to 6th. There's a pass down the order. It's Yuri on Spoon. Spoon has had a terrible race next to his teammate now. He started far more up the order than before.
Yeah, a bit of a messy start there at the back of the grid. We saw some contact between some cars. I saw Chilmos in the Ferrari sliding a little bit wide. I think that was Spoon that he made contact with, and they both got sent down the order. Luckily for them, I don't think there's any significant damage on any of the cars. They should be good to carry on here.
We begin lap number 2, and look at that Cruz just keeping it out of the wall champions. There's a hit from the Mivako, and there's going to be a pass, I think, on the inside here. Cruz trying to challenge on the inside into turn number 1, trying to hang it now around the outside of Lewis in the racing point, but he keeps the lead of the Grand Prix. And Cruz now still following in second position, very close to that racing point, and I think this is going to be a big, gigantic battle here. Oh, that's a kiss into the wall from Cruz coming downhill from the chicane, and he's got to keep it out of the wall. The last thing you want to have is damage on the end plate, especially on the right side, because that's the more crucial part of the car for the turn-ins here, as Yuri already has a 3-second time penalty early on in this Grand Prix.
Yeah, the Ferrari's battling at it right now. Chilmo getting past his teammate down the order here. So Chilmo, after this bad start, he's already gotten that car pointed the right way, back getting some positions already. He was down in 13th there at one point in the start, already back up into the points in 10th.
LES Chris is getting quite close to Matt's as well. Matt's up to 8th on the grid. He had a fantastic start already behind his teammate Fallen Monkeys, who is in 7th position in the moment as well. So it's been a good start for a few drivers. Mr. Cool is getting quite close to this top 3 battle as well. Cruz has dropped back a little bit. Mr. Cool sets the fastest lap of the Grand Prix. I'm sure that will improve as we go further on into the race. It is cloudy skies right now. I don't know if there's going to be rain in the future, but it's definitely embodying skies.
We've been told by Chris, dry race. If there's any rain, the drivers were not warned about it. But yeah, definitely cloudy, so we'll have to keep an eye out for that. But it's important to keep in mind, by the way, Cruz on the medium tires, he's going to go longer than Lewis, Kuehl, and Jedi Ant. So I'm honestly surprised by the amount of pace that Mercedes has right now. He was not only fighting with Lewis there on lap 1, but he's actually holding the 2 McLarens at bay. And, you know, with the extended tire life, if he can keep this pace up for an extended amount of time without ruining his tires, those softs towards the end of the race are absolutely going to pay off for him.
And, oh, there's another pass here. Lorenzo, and look at this. That was almost a collision there between Yuri and Chilmo. Chilmo getting overtaken again by Lorenzo, and now the Renault of Yuri is going to get into the mix. There's no DRS for Chilmo, so he's kind of left as a sitting duck right now. There's going to be no pass into the chicane. At least I wouldn't think so. That'd be a little bit of a grassy knoll move right there, as Yuri now coming onto the main straight. Chilmo now in the slipstream of Lorenzo. Lorenzo has DRS still, but I don't think we're going to be seeing a move maybe a little bit too far back right there, as Cruz has a 3-second time penalty, so that is not good early on in this Grand Prix, because I always say around Canada, it's not if you're going to get a penalty, it's how many penalties you're going to get, because track limits are quite brutal around here.
Yeah, absolutely, and to get the maximum lap time around this track, you basically want to cut as much of the corner as you can, especially on this track. Like I mentioned during qualifying, it's a lot of pseudo chicanes and actual chicanes, and so if you don't kind of throw the car through there, you're forced to really slow down. That's going to cost you a ton of time to the guys behind. But as this game can be a little bit picky with the track limits, sometimes you're going to take a corner one way one lap and be fine, and then the next lap you're going to get dinged for it.
Oof.
So you got to be careful. Everyone's going to get some penalties by the end of this race.
Broke himself there into the hairpin, lost bundles of time to the 3 ahead of him. Yuri getting involved a little bit with Chilmo. Chilmo back in DRS range in slipstream. Lorenzo does not have DRS right now. I want to talk about Mr. Cool right now, getting very close to Cruz 9K, who's in 2nd position. Cruz is struggling right now. He is 1.5 seconds behind Lewis. A bit of a sitting duck right now in this Grand Prix, as the end of those soft tires, and ooh, that was almost a contact into the wall there by Cruz. We have seen him a few times come out of that chicane a little unstable. I was going to mention, though, these tires are going to start to hit the end of their life cycle. Pit lane entry is going to be about lap number 8 with these soft tires, and can go as late as possibly lap number 11. So we're going to have to wait and see how the drivers start making their pit stop soon as Lorenzo gets a 3-second time penalty, multiple warnings.
Yeah, these soft tires aren't going to last a whole lot more laps there. We're looking at a 2-stop strategy for most drivers. Even if you start on the mediums, you're looking at probably either a medium, soft, or a soft, medium for these drivers. Safety car might come in and kind of mess around with those strategies, but so far so good. We should be seeing the first of many pit stops shortly.
And Mr. Cool right on the back of Cruz. Cruz is helped by some of that DRS from his ahead, so he actually got inside of Lewis's DRS zone. Again, that gap was 1.5 seconds before the previous lap, so Lewis definitely had a little bit of an incident somewhere. Back outside of a second. Look at that. Mr. Cool was trying to look around the inside there, but Cruz covered it off well, and this battle right now for 2nd position is heating up quite well here, ladies and gentlemen, as now the grid is starting to separate a little bit. We do see Yuri, though, still getting involved with Chilmo, who is struggling right now, as, in fact, might be possibly up with a move right now, as Chilmo was outside of DRS detection zone with his teammate. This is not good for him, as he is going to get... Yep, oh, that was contact. Yuri outbroke himself there. He hit the back of Chilmo. He is going to lose a lot of time. Spoon is going to get ahead of him. So that was not good at all for the Renault driver. Really outbroke himself there and has hit the back of Mo. He has damage on his front wing, and that's not going to help his race whatsoever.
Yeah, and I think my eyes might be tricking me, but it does look like both Renaults are suffering a bit from wing damage right now. So that should slow them down. But what's interesting is if they pit shortly close to one another, because if they try a double stack, they're going to have to give quite a bit of gap.
Look at this, into the chicane. Fallen Monkeys has made a move into the chicane, the final chicane on Mivako. What a fantastic move by the Red Bull driver, up to 6th position.
Yeah, of course, 1 DRS detection zone for 2 DRS straights here in Canada. Right before the hairpin, you get your timing point, and then you get the whole back straight and the main straight with the DRS open. So Fallen Monkeys getting DRS right after the pass, helping him get away from Mivako a little bit.
Still running on board of Mr. Cool, getting inside that possible DRS detection zone range, which Cruz has fallen out of again. 1.2 seconds, that gap from the lead to 2nd position. So it's just about a second separating them, though, as Mr. Cool, though, much better breaking into the hairpin there. So probably will get a little bit closer on the straight. As I'm going to bring up the telemetry. He's running in high ERS, about 50% left on there. I'm going to ride on board of Mivako right now. He's getting quite close again to Fallen Monkeys. We might see another move here coming into the chicane. ISRL Lewis, that's a 3-second time penalty. That is not good for the leader of this Grand Prix. Again, very early on here. Again, it's penalty limitation and lap number 8. And we see a pit stop here from Mivako, and he's going to be the first person to pit.
He's going to get a 5-second penalty for speeding in the
pit look at
lane.
this. Chill Mo and Spoon. Right now, and there's contact between the drivers. Spoon and Chill Mo getting into it here, ladies and gentlemen, as we might see Chill Mo try to dive somewhere. He's going to maybe dive on the inside, but there was contact. They went side by side into the final chicane, and I tend to back off in that area when there's a battle going on because it's very hard to not make contact between drivers there. As I don't know if he has damage. I did see your end plate come off the car.
Is missing an end plate. Yeah, he wasn't missing that before. So Mo picking up a little bit of damage in that battle with Spoon. That's going to cost him some time here.
In fact, there's a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That was a definite cut of that chicane, and that must be down to the downforce loss on that Ferrari, and he must be kicking himself right now. He must not be happy at all with Spoon. Again, going side by side through there. I tend to back off. I just tend, if somebody's going to dive in there, I'm just going to let it happen, because it's very hard to go side by side through there. So short and so narrow, not getting a corner cut is pretty much impossible almost.
It's a very, very tricky portion of the track there, and if you're going to go side by side with somebody, you better hope it's somebody who's giving you as much space as you're giving them. Cars get too close, very, very easy to send one into the wall. We're seeing more pit stops here.
LAS Chris?
Yeah, Chilmo in the pit as well. LAS Chris both pitting here for mediums. I think Mo's pitting mostly to get that front wing fixed. Very quick pit stop from the Alfa Romeo crew, though.
Yeah, very good.
We're seeing the first of the Renaults as well. Yuri changing his front wing. So some of these guys suffering from some early damage, getting that fixed, getting some of their pace back there. Hoping probably for a safety car to make up for that lost time.
And right already now, Mivako in a battle with Alex Juh out of the pit lane. He might make a move into the chicane there, maybe a little bit too far back though, but right up behind him. And actually Alex Juh now got a terrible run out of the chicane. DRS activated for Mivako. They're going to go side by side coming into this chicane. Let's see what's going to happen here. A dive on the inside, and it's a great move by Mivako already into the exit for his second stint on that medium compound tire. And there's a pit stop by Lewis in the racing point, and he'll put on those medium tires now. That's the first of the leaders. We also have Jedi Ant. Well. Jordan as well into the pit lane. Fallen Monkeys will follow. Lorenzo does not pit. Lorenzo will take the lead of the Grand Prix, though. Well, actually, sorry, Mr. Cool and Lewis did not elect to pit, but they will be pitting soon, I'm sure. And I think Lorenzo, and now, ooh, look at this Spoon on the inside of Lorenzo and gets ahead of him. That was a very nice move into turn number 1, and we have Spoon up to 4th. He as well has front wing damage. About the where the Ferrari and the Renault would have made contact, he has front wing damage on that respective side of the car. So interesting to see that one. Yeah. We'll see how Spoon can do later in this race.
Yeah, Spoon, I don't think that front wing damage is affecting him too much. Fastest sector 3 there.
He dropped it on the grass there, so that did not help him at all.
Yeah. Yeah, but fastest sector 3 on his last lap there. He's holding Lorenzo at bay. Lorenzo on the harder tires, but with that front wing damage, it should at least balance it out. But Spoon, a great pace right now.
It's been a great Canadian Grand Prix so far. We've seen a lot of battling up and down the grid. We're riding on board of Lorenzo right now. He's a little bit out of DRS detection zone right now. Actually, if we're right on board, Fallen Monkeys is getting quite close to Alex Juh again.
Battle here in the back between Monkeys and 2 Alfa Romeos. There's a bit of a mixed pit strategy going on. So some of these guys have pit like Chris. Some of these guys have not pit like Alex Juh. But lots of cars.
Here we go into the chicane. A move by Fallen Monkeys into the chicane. Oh, but where does he go? And that had to be a warning, I would think.
Yeah, definitely getting a warning.
Look at this.
Just trying to give...
Matt's going side by side of the Alfa Romeo. Alex Juh, is he going to make 2 into the corner? He's going to try it and just gets cut off by Alex Juh. But a great move by Mats, and this is getting feisty at the back of the grid here. This is the battle for 10th position right now with Mats and Alex Juh. Fallen Monkeys now getting a little bit further ahead of all the battle going. There's a bad run for Alex Juh, and I think there might have been contact between the Red Bull and the Alfa Romeo there, as he might have gone held up a little bit. I can't see because the trees are blocking me. This is not a great camera angle. Now here we go now. A switchback. We got DRS activated. They're going to go side by side here. They're banging wheels here, ladies and gentlemen, on the inside, though, coming into the chicane. An easy move before the chicane now. And now it's LAS Chris, who might try to get involved with Alex Juh, who has had a terrible run of things so far early on in this stint.
Yeah, the Red Bulls making very quick work of the Alfa Romeos there. Both of them getting passed in the span of a lap. And Fallen Monkeys, that's his second move into the chicane. He had that little moment at the start there, I think just giving more room than he really had to.
We got to talk about this. Look at this. Cruz just comes out behind Mr. Cool. This is the battle for second position outside of the pit lane. Look at that. A move possibly around the outside on Mr. Cool. Keeps it out of the wall. We might see another dive on the inside here. Is getting quite close. He's going to look on the inside, but not going to take the risk. Coming now to that DRS detection zone here, where he got a much better run by from Mr. Cool. Mr. Cool, I'm trying to get a good on board here. Mr. Cool gets passed by Cruz, and this is going to be a big battle here, ladies and gentlemen, both on relatively new softs. Crucially, though, Lewis has gone ahead of Cruz, so the times have not changed, and it's a 5.2 second gap.
Yeah, the thing that's a little bit interesting here is that Cruz, he pit at the same time as Mr. Kuhl pit off those softs, which means if he wants to make these medium tires he's on right now last long enough so that he can get on the softs at the end of this race, he's gonna have to go at least until lap 27 or 28 here. So we're looking at a very long stint from Cruz, whereas Mr. Kuhl has another set of mediums ready, and that's what he's going to be getting on next pit stop. So Mr. Kuhl probably actually ending up with the better tire strategy here. I think Cruz pit just a little bit too early, and he should have rode out those first softs just a little bit longer.
This is a big battle for second position. Mr. Cool looked on the inside in the turn number 1, but a little bit too far back, and he will keep patient for the moment. We still have other battles going on. We have the Red Bulls, who are in a bit of a battle right now. Fallen Monkeys a little bit further back from his teammate, but in DRS detection zone nonetheless. We also have Lorenzo and Spoon, who are getting at it as well. Spoon, I don't believe, has made a pit stop yet. Or maybe he has.
Spoon, Lorenzo, and Alex Juh have not pit yet. Everybody else is on one stop.
Mr. Cool getting very close. Surely a pass on this DRS detection zone as he comes up to that DRS line, and it's activated, and it should be an easy move for Mr. Cool well before the chicane. And we're going to see here, Cruz gives him the outside lane, and this is going to get interesting here, ladies and gentlemen, going side by side through the chicane, and just keeps it out of the wall of champions, but Cruz still has the run. He's going to try to come into turn number 1. We're going to see if he's going to go on the inside. Is he a little bit too far back? He tries to make the move, and he gets cut off by Mr. Cool, and this is getting feisty here, ladies and gentlemen. Lap number 14 of 35, Mivako right there with a 3-second time penalty, but that's not the big thing here right now. The big thing right now is this battle for second position. Cruz and Mr. Cool going at it right now here at the Circuit de Villeneuve.
Yeah, great respect from these two drivers going through the chicane side by side. Oh, Mo's out. Not sure what happened there, but retired in the...
Out. Look at that on the start-finish line. Yuri passed him, so he had a spin out of the final chicane. And that is out. He is out on the start-finish line right there.
Yeah, he might have made contact with the wall of champions and then bounced back into that pit wall, a little bit like Kevin Magnussen did here in qualifying 2019. But unfortunately for Mo, that's P14, first DNF. But surprisingly, no safety car, no VSC, nothing.
And there was a little bit of an issue there. Lorenzo made a pass on Spoon, but it was off track. He had to give the position back up, and now Jordan JT is right behind him, and this is going to get feisty here. This is the battle for 5th position right now. These guys all very close to one another. Cruz has dropped a little bit from Mr. Cool there, so no move right there, but now we might see a move possibly with DRS detection activated. Lorenzo getting a little bit further behind Spoon. Jordan JT getting much closer. Look at that, a big dive bomb by the Williams on the Ferrari, and what a move right there. He caught that Ferrari napping in the turn number 1, and he got the position easily. A textbook maneuver from Jordan JT in the Williams.
Yeah, Jordan JT, I think he's intent on proving me wrong here. I said he was a bit of an unassuming driver. We didn't see him pull these moves off too frequently, just getting the car to the end, getting good positions on surviving alone. But Jordan, absolutely, that was super uncharacteristic of him. But what a move, catching that Ferrari napping, getting the position. Great racing from Jordan.
Here comes Cruz again. He's going to have that DRS again on the straight. Now much even closer than maybe Cool. Maybe not, though. He lost a little bit out of the hairpin. It's still going to get closer, ladies and gentlemen. No move into the final chicane, but we might see a move in the turn number 1. Can he get it well through there? Oh, no. He got wheel spin out of the...
Cruz, yeah.
A big wheel spin out of the chicane there. Kept it alive. That's going to loosen some time. And a big thing here, a challenge in the turn 1. As look at this Spoon into the pits. He has finally made his pit stop, and Lorenzo and Jordan are going to get ahead of him. And Lorenzo has a 3-second time penalty again. So time penalties are stacking up here in this race. Matt's 9.555 is also coming to the pits. So 2 drivers in the pits right now. Lorenzo, has a...
That's his
that's a disconnect.
Pit stop there.
Lorenzo has a disconnect. He's not in the session right now. He is ghosted on track, so he disconnected from the session.
We'll hope that he can join back. Matt's on his 2nd pit stop already. First guy to 2-stop. He's going on the hard tires all the way until the end. He's going to try to make those guys last 19 laps and see if he can finish on this tire compound. He's going to drop a bit of pace, but if there's a safety car late, he should be able to kind of skip some positions, get ahead there. Interesting call from Matt's 95.55.
Cruz 9K back in a DRS detection zone, not able to make a move. Of course, he had that moment into the chicane. Does he have it again? Much better through the chicane there this time with DRS. Can he try to make a challenge in the turn number 1? I think he's a little bit too far back for a dive, and no, he will keep behind the McLaren at the moment. But this is the battle for 2nd position right now. Mr. Cool and Cruz 9K battling for 2nd position. They've been battling all race long, and it's been getting a little feisty here in the past couple of laps. And there's Mavako, another 3-second time penalty for him, and the penalties are just stacking up and down the field. Drivers are not able to keep it on track in the limits, and that was definitely a cut by Cruz 9K right there. And you can see there's been a pass. Mavako and Lorenzo. Now Mavako has gone ahead of Lorenzo again. He is out of the session right now, so that is not good for him. And now they're coming up to the hairpin. Cruz 9K, surely I believe this time, close enough to the McLaren. He might even make a move before the hairpin. He was trying to look around the outside, but Mr. Cool saw that and closed the door. Now coming through here, and look at this. Almost looked for a switch back there into the hairpin. Now with DRS right up to the rear diffuser of that McLaren, and Shirley is going to make a move well before the final chicane. But Cool's going to go defensive, and look at this. This is getting really feisty here, ladies and gentlemen, on the inside into the chicane, and Cruz has made the move. Mr. Cool kind of didn't have anywhere to go, though, and I think, was that a little bit of a double move almost by Mr. Cool into the braking zone there, though it didn't work in his favor because he's down to 3rd.
Yeah, not sure. Hard to judge there just watching it once. We'd have to see a replay. But great move from Cruz there, getting ahead of Mr. Kuehl. But one thing that this battle, as fun as it is to watch, has allowed is that Lewis is 5.2 seconds up the road. And if these guys stand any chance of catching up and getting the win, that means they got to stop fighting and they got to start catching up, with the utmost urgency.
And the gap is starting to form a little bit here. You can see Mr. Cool almost outside of a second, so he should get DRS on this next time around, but he is definitely losing pace now, the Cruz. His Cruz has gone a little further ahead than in previous times with overtaking opportunities here. I want to talk about Matt's. He's getting quite close to Spoon right now, and he cuts a little bit of the chicane there. You can see some dirt fly up from the back of the rear tires there. as Matt's trying to possibly make a move on the Renault of Spoon, who has had a bit of an interesting race. Lorenzo was in the session, has left again, so he is having connection problems. Unfortunate for Lorenzo, he's actually been running quite well in this race, was disqualified in qualifying, sitting 7th on the grid. Oh, that's contact. Matt's into the wall, and I think he has end plate damage. He has major front wing damage on that Red Bull. That is going to be a pit stop right now, as he has a bit of a plink right now on the right side of his car for a front wing.
Yeah. That's very bad news for Matt. We're just talking about how he's going to go onto those tires till the end, and I'm honestly unsure if mediums are going to cut it till the end. I think he has still a pair of fresh yellow walled tires, but if they don't last till the end, he's basically guaranteeing himself an extra 2 pit stops right now. He's going to have to drive very conservatively in these final laps.
I think there's about 15 laps to go in the session.
And he's retired.
He has retired from the session, so I think he could have gone to the end. It would have been tough on those mediums, but about 15 laps to go on the mediums. Again, the softs run out about 10 laps. That's about their lifespan with new softs, so I think the mediums could have gone till the end, but Mats has retired from the session nonetheless. He is not happy. Lorenzo is trying to join back in, but keeps disconnecting, so he is having problems. Unfortunate for him. But I want to talk about Mr. Cool here. He has caught back up a little bit with Cruz, so he has gotten back the pace that he lost a little bit. Jedi Ant has been a non-factor in this Grand Prix. 9.7 seconds behind Mr. Cool. Has just not been able to make a challenge like his teammate has.
No, absolutely. We haven't seen much of him. He's falling a little bit further back from this top 3 here, and I don't know if he's just biding his time, but if that is the case, he better stop biting it soon. He's running out of time here, and he's a long ways back.
Again, that gap is 5 seconds in the championship right now. 3rd and 4th, I don't know if that's going to change the standings. You know, you start to drop off points pretty fast with these top 10. Mr. Cool sitting in 3rd, just inside DRS detection zone. We'll see if he actually gets DRS here. And no, he does not get DRS down this straight, so that is not going to help his case at all. And if we look at the ERS available to drivers, about 46% no ERS being run. Oh, but that was a big slide by Mr. Cruz. Mr. Cool running it in high at about 54%. So he's got a little bit more to play with than Cruz 9K. But Cruz 9K, again, has had another moment in the chicane. And we've seen him be on the edge a lot of times out of the exit of the final turn here. And he wants to keep it out of the wall of champions, and he's done so. But he is playing with fire right now, as about half a second now separates Mr. Cool and that Mercedes.
Yeah, I'm going through our race director here. I'm trying to see how many penalties Mr. Kuhl has versus Jedi Ant, and I do believe Mr. Kuhl has a couple, and I don't see Jedi Ant's name anywhere here. So even though that gap is 10 seconds right now, it might be a little early to say, but I think Jedi Ant might actually be able to pass him on penalties if this keeps up here. I don't see Jedi. I think he has 1 warning this race, Jedi Ant. Mr. Kuhl currently on 9 seconds of penalties. So if Jedi Ant can close that gap just ever so slightly, which is going to be tough right now with Mr. Kuhl kind of getting DRS off of Cruz and getting a little bit further ahead of him, he might be able to just get the podium at the end of this race just by racing cleaner.
He is getting in that DRS range. He has caught back up to Cruz. Again, he had that moment in the final chicane, slid out of it. I'm sure the tires didn't like it very much, but he is in struggling zone right now. The McLaren and the Mercedes, who McLaren is going to be powered by in the next season of Formula 1, so that should be interesting to say the least. But now we see these two teams who have been, their history is enriched in Formula 1. Of course, Mercedes, an engine supplier for McLaren for a number of years, but now they're battling on track, and Cruz and Mr. Cool are doing them justice right now. A mega battle right now in this Grand Prix. As you can see, LES Chris is coming to the pit lane. That is medium compound tires. He will go to the end in this race, hopefully. Lorenzo, I believe, is just going to get it. Yep, he is going to get far ahead of him, and he's going to come out in 9th. LES Chris should get ahead of his teammate, about 34 seconds behind that pack. So he is having not a great race, Alex. He had struggles in the later stages of his final stint. I think he extended it far too long, and he is having problems right now. As look at this, Mr. Cool, he is getting very close to Cruise 9K. He's going to try to make a move around the outside in the turn number 1. And here we go, the battle for second position, still side by side. That's a spin by the McLaren. They made contact side by side in the turn number 2, and that's a big spin. And this is big news for Jedi Ant, though. That lets him catch up a lot more to Mr. Cool here. And this is big news with Mr. Cool with penalties. And up 8 seconds that gap now. And with tires that have been spun around, I'm sure they're a little hot. He has to keep it nice and steady here through these next few corners. But that was unfortunate for Mr. Cool.
Yeah, I think just early judge here, I think that has to be racing incident. Mr. Cool trying to squeeze a little bit. Cruz on the inside. Cruz kept his line. I think he gave him plenty of space, and they just made unfortunate tire-to-tire contact, and around that McLaren went. But like you said, Jedi Ant absolutely closing in that gap right now. 4.8 seconds it's gone down to. Based on penalties right now, Jedi Ant is in 3rd position. So Mr. Cool, he's going to have to either step it up, get that gap back up, or hope that Jedi Ant starts taking penalties, because he's in a bad spot right now.
We do have to mention, if I bring up the detail right here, 12 lap old mediums, drivers do have to pit again. It's going to be
Jedi Ant is in the pits.
Jedi Ant pits. This is a very interesting strategy. You're trying to go for the undercut on his teammate, but will it work?
This is his second undercut attempt this race. He tried it on the first pit stop. It didn't work then. From the soft to the mediums. He's trying it medium to medium this time. And honestly, he has a better shot. 5-second gap before they pit, so you know he might not pass him on the undercut, but he should definitely get closer. Mr. Cool on those tires that he spun around, like you said, he's definitely got a little bit of increased heat in there. He's not going to be able to push as hard, at least for this lap, maybe even the next one, as he tries to cool those tires back down. So Jedi Ant with an excellent call with the undercut here. This is the perfect time to do it.
But what does Mr. Cool do? Because here's the big thing. Jedi Ant is still losing time to Mr. Cool, who was on that old medium tire. So it has not been a good outlap for Jedi Ant at all. But what does Mr. Cool do? Does he react to the pit stop? No, he does. He stays out at the moment. Jedi Ant has to pick up the pace.
Yeah, I think this is what is going to save Jedi Ant. These mediums, they at least take a lap to get the tires in and really get them up to racing temperature, which means this outlap on the mediums is always a little bit slow. It's not like getting out on fresh softs and you have this incredible amount of grip. You got to get your heat in the tires, and you got to kind of get them worn in before you get optimal grip and you start saving time. And as you can tell, I don't know if you can tell judging by the gap to Jordan, but Jedi Ant already carving about a second out of his gap with Jordan right now. I think he's catching up to Mr. Cool.
We got to talk about it, but it's 17 seconds from Jordan to Mr. Cool. Jedi Ant about 4 seconds, so we're talking about 21 seconds with a gap right now between those drivers. What's the pit lane length right now with Canada? That's going to be interesting.
Canada is one of the shorter pit lanes. Obviously, in Canada, it bypasses that final chicane, and it also bypasses turn 1. So you got it's average length in terms of pure distance, but you pass 2 big braking zones here. So we're looking at about 20 seconds here, the pit lane
into
Canada,
the pits.
And that's going to be
Mr. Cool into the pits. Here we go.
Yeah, it's all on the line here.
Jedi Ant has to get around quickly. He's just starting that back straight, and he does not have DRS, but he's getting very close to Jordan JT. Soft tires.
Super interesting here. Yeah, soft tires on the McLaren.
He's now coming. I don't think he's going to make it. No, Mr. Cool is going to come out ahead, I believe, of Jedi Ant. Jedi Ant now just coming into turn number 1, and this has not worked. This has not worked for Jedi Ant, and surely Mr. Cool will keep that 3rd position, and especially with the soft tires, he's going to be blazing right now. This has not worked for Jedi Ant at all. I didn't think the gap was close enough for that pit stop to really affect it. Unfortunate. Jedi Ant though in 4th, and he has to really race to his best ability, but with softs for Mr. Cool, it's going to be interesting. So here's the interesting thing though, is that those tires are going to run out a lot quicker for Mr. Cool. In fact, he's going to be about 10-lap-old softs by the time it's the end of this Grand Prix, which means that he's going to be at the end of the lifespan. Is Jedi Ant going to be able to catch up to Mr. Cool at the end? Concerning with those with our mediums, they're going to be in much better condition than those softs.
Yeah, I don't know. This is going to be a very close one. The softs, I don't know if they're brand new. I don't know if they're super fresh or if these guys got used in... Well, of course, they're fresh. They didn't get used in qualifying.
No, they're shiny. Qualifying. They're shiny tires.
So, yeah, they're absolutely brand new softs. They're going to be getting towards the end of their lifespan at the end of this race. I wouldn't be surprised if Mr. Cool finishes this race on 70, 80% worn tires, but this went completely under the radar. Look who he passed in the pits. Cruz is behind him now.
Cruz, but Cruz is on newer softs. He is on new softs as well, so 2.1 seconds that gap. So we're going to see here who's the faster man. They're both on relatively same lifespan of tires. That's another 3-second time penalty for Mivako. That's got to be getting towards the 20-second mark. The amount of 3-second time penalties he's received in this Grand Prix. The only driver right now on the hard tires is Spoon, 11-lap-old hards. Again, he is going to go to the end of this Grand Prix with that wing damage he suffered earlier on in the race. So we have Fallen Monkeys on softs as well. Jordan
Lewis
JT.
is in the pits. He's on softs.
He has decided to put on the soft tires. Mr. Cool will come out pretty far behind Lewis, and this is going to be fine for Lewis because he's going to be on the newest of the softs out of this pack, except for Cruz, but Cruz is in third. Let's see how close they are, and he's just getting ahead of that Renault of Yuri. And the gap is 5.5 seconds between Mr. Cool and Lewis.
And yeah, this is not really playing out in Jedi Ant's hands at all. I was thinking at first, maybe Cruz is going to be close enough to him. He can get some DRS, catch up to Mr. Cool that way. That's not the case. Cruz is also outside of the range of DRS for Mr. Cool by quite a bit here, and then Mr. Cool himself really far back from Lewis. So any chance that Jedi Ant has at catching up to this top three right now is going to come down to penalties. He's shown a super clean race, hasn't taken many penalties at all. I think I only see him for a 3-second there, maybe even a single warning. I haven't checked in a little bit, but we might see a different McLaren on the podium at the end of this race if he can keep it clean.
Yuri has a 3-second time penalty. I want to talk about Lorenzo. He pitted as well, but he put on the medium, so he's going for the traditional strategy, we presume. Oh, but that's wing damage for him. He just hit the wall there. Mr. Cool goes fastest on track of that looks to be a 110.6, but that was a hit into the wall by Lorenzo, and he has wing damage, and he just pit. That's more wing damage on that car, and he is having struggles right now on this first lap on those new mediums, not getting them into temperature range, and he has struggled.
No, and looks like driving a little bit frustrated here. He lost some spots due to that disconnect. I'm sure he was already a tiny bit frustrated already. He's had trouble with his internet connection. Might just be a little bit of an error of inattention here. He's going to have to pit again, and he's just going to go right into the pits, take that 5 seconds. He's not a happy man
and
right
he
now.
Is retired from the session. He has retired from the session. Unfortunate. Was running a good race, had that disconnect. Now he had wing damage with that medium tire pit stop, just not able to get them into operating window fast enough, and he is retired, and that has been a Ferrari disaster.
Lewis takes a penalty here.
He gets a 3-second time penalty, but has been a disaster for the Ferrari team. Both are out of this Grand Prix.
Ooh, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be able to count. Lewis taking a corner cutting penalty, but setting the fastest lap time in one swoop. And don't know if that's going to be allowed to count there, but he's got the extra point according to the game.
Mr. Cool gets another 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings.
I think that puts him behind Jedi Ant as it stands right now. Fallen Monkey's getting very close to Chris in the back here, fighting for 8th place.
And he's got DRS on him. Going to try to make a move in the turn number 1. Where does he go? He goes on the inside. There's contact between them. There was contact. Chris nudged over, and he made contact with Fallen Monkeys. Was not able to make the run he would have liked to in the turn number 1. And that was a little bit of a 50-50 on there. What's your take there? Did you see that contact between them?
Yeah, I was watching that. I think Monkeys was just trying to cut it very close there so he can still get a very wide turn into turn 1. But Chris kind of maybe going a little bit defensive, a little bit late. They made a little bit of contact wheel to wheel there. Luckily for them, doesn't look like there's any damage. Fallen Monkeys is just going to kind of take a step back here, regroup himself, and then go again on this lap. And
LAS Chris is gone a little bit of a breather room now because of that incident, and we'll see if Fallen Monkeys here. No, Fallen Monkeys does not get DRS. No, well, he is within a second though, so that's a big thing. And I don't know. I think Chris.
Yeah.
I think Chris let him by.
Chris going, yeah, you know what? That might have been my fault there, giving Fallen Monkeys the position. Very, very good sportsmanship from the Alfa Romeo driver.
Because there was contact. He definitely tried to go on the inside, and he kind of cut him off a little bit. But again, it was 50-50. I'm not going to say it was completely on Chris's fault, but Chris thought otherwise and has let him by. And now we might see a little bit of a battle between the two drivers here at the end. We're on lap 31 of 35. Lewis is leading this Grand Prix. He has got a 3-second time penalty. We know that for sure. I don't know if he has more than that. Mr. Cool really in the danger zone here. He has a load of penalties on him. 7 seconds between first and second, and Cruz is 1.6 seconds behind Mr. Cool. Jedian a further 9.5 behind that, but I believe Jedian still in contention for jumping ahead of Mr. Cool with the amount of penalties reigning over him. Jordan is rounding off that top 5, about 14.6 seconds behind.
Yeah, I think Mr. Cool might just get himself off the podium on penalties here. I think he's up to 12 or 15 seconds right now. So we'll have to see at the end of the race there. But Jedi Ant, if he can just keep it steady and keep it close to Cruz, well, as close as can be, he's 10 seconds back right now, might just earn himself some extra points here right at the end.
LAS Chris, he's got DRS on Fallen Monkeys, and he was getting close on that last lap, but he's a little bit further back than he was before, so I don't know if he had a moment at some point, maybe out of the hairpin, but nonetheless, right now it's Fallen Monkeys and Chris who are battling right now. Lap 32 of 35, we're in final 4. Oh, that's contact to the wall. Yeah. Fallen Monkeys has end plate damage on that car for sure, and that is going to change this battle.
Bit of end plate missing there from Fallen Monkeys. Not a lot of laps to go. He just has to hold Chris behind him.
And here we go. Maybe trying to look around on the inside there, but Fallen Monkeys covers him off. Cruz has a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings. That is...
Yeah, this keeps playing into the hands of Jedi Ant right now.
That is very good for him. And let's see here as... Cruz has a lot of penalties, I believe, of his own, so he might be able to get ahead of Cruz as well. And as we're riding on, DRS activated for LAS Chris, coming towards Fallen Monkeys, a little bit farther back, though, than he would like to be, and again, he will not be able to challenge into the chicane.
No, it looks like Chris on that harder tire compound, not able to get the grip he needs on the exits of these slow speed corners, particularly the hairpin there. It's such a slow corner that you got to get the grip on the exit if you want to get a good run down the straight.
We got to talk about Cruz. We got to talk about Cruz here. He's back in DRS detection range of Mr. Cool. So Mr. Cool has been having problems. Mr. Cool is on the oldest of the 3 drivers there on soft tires, on 7-lap old soft. So they are getting near the end of their lifespan as we begin the penultimate lap of this Grand Prix. And we already, again, are now back in for a battle of second position. It's not about penalties here. It's just about track position. And I'm sure for the drivers here, your ego will get a little bit of a boost if you can try to get ahead of that driver.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of getting ahead, Chris getting very close. He's going to, I think, send one down the inside of the hairpin here.
Yeah. But he ran it up on the grass. There, He ran it up on the grass. That might ruin his momentum a little bit as he tries to make a challenge again on Fallen Monkeys.
And yeah, he gets DRS, but Monkeys is just a little bit too far ahead right now, I think.
Look at this. Cruz has made it ahead of Mr. Cool on lap 34 of 35, and this is big scenes here. Mr. Cool should have a challenge again coming on towards the hairpin, towards the next straight, and let's see if he can get close to him. He should have DRS. Let's see if he has it. Yes, he does have DRS in overtake mode, a little bit further back than he'd like to be, and this is going to probably go till the final lap here of this Grand Prix. Getting quite close. Look at the run right now Mr. Cool has on that Mercedes. He's a little further back than he'd like to be, but oh, that's another 3-second time penalty for Mr. Cool, and this is great for Jedi Ant. Surely he'll get ahead of him, but this is the battle for second position on track at least, and it's getting close here between that McLaren and that Mercedes.
Yeah, I think this is the nail in the coffin here for Mr. Cool's podium. 11 seconds back, Jedi Ant is. If he can keep it within 12, I think that's all he needs here. So Mr. Cool, even if he finishes third here, even if he gets past Cruz even, he has to keep it clean till the end.
DRS activated again, just keeps it out of the wall. We've got to talk about here, though, is ISRL Lewis is about to come through the hairpin. Lewis has drove a masterclass performance race. He has led just about every single lap of this Grand Prix, and he has done a fantastic job in this session.
Yeah, great race from Lewis here, coming in as a reserve here, but showing he definitely belongs, if not here to Tier 1 even. Chicane now.
And he is going to win the Canadian Grand Prix. And Cruz is going to come out ahead of Mr. Cool on the final lap, but where does Mr. Cool finish? He's definitely going to be behind Jedi Ant for sure. It's about 11.1 seconds. There was a little bit of a shimmy between the drivers. They had a fun time here in this race. Here comes Jedi Ant. He should get ahead of Mr. Cool. Yes, he does. He does.
Yeah, by 6 seconds as well. Mr. Cool just raking up the penalties here, and that just costs him in the end. And I do think, yeah, Jedi Ant is going to take the lead in the championship here by a single point.
Jordan JT finishes in 5th. A good race for the Williams driver. Mivako is going to have a lot of penalties on him. He finishes in 6th, but I'm sure Spoon might pass him here. Comes across the line. Yep, that's a pass by him. Does LES Chris make a position on Mivako? No, but it by half a second almost.
But Monkey's getting I think getting some positions here at the end. Monkey's finishing 7th. He crossed the line in 9th.
What a race, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, he kept it clean, got some easy positions. It does show on tracks like this. Sometimes, you know, you go a little bit slower. You don't take as many penalties. You get those positions back in the end, basically for free.
But there's your top 3. Lewis wins the Grand Prix, and it is Jedi Ant on the podium, Cruz in 2nd, and what a fantastic Canadian Grand Prix here in Tier 2. Lots of action, lots of strategy that I actually enjoyed for once, and what a Grand Prix here, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for joining us. We're about to get into some interviews of some of the drivers in just a moment's time, but there was your Canadian Grand Prix. I'm going to go over that lineup one more time for you. And it is ISRL Lewis in 1st, Cruz in 2nd, Jedi Ant in 3rd, Mr. Cool in 4th. Jordan JT rounds off your top 5. Spoon finishing in 6th. Fallen Monkeys in 7th. 8th for Mivako. Chris in 9th. 10th for Alex Ja. Yuri in 11th. Lorenzo in 12th. Mats in 13th. And it's a 3 DNFs down here at the bottom. Lorenzo, Mats, and Chill Mo. And that is your unofficial, provisional, final standings here. Of course, we do believe we might see some penalties here. I definitely saw a few moments where some drivers might be making some possibilities here. But let's talk to our race winner right now. He's in the session. ISRL Lewis, that was pretty much as perfect as it could have possibly been for you. Talk us through that race and how you came to the victory, and we'll get to Mr. Cool in just a moment.
Well, obviously after Tier 3, so fresh off over 50% anyway, my strategy didn't work, so I knew coming into this I needed to try something different. So obviously getting pole helped. Obviously not held up behind anyone off the start because I got a good getaway. And then from there, really, it was just managing the tyres. I was going to go to the medium after the first soft stint, but I knew that Mr. Cool and Jedi had some good pace, as well as Cruz as well. They all had good pace, and they were catching me, so I knew that if I waited for The Mercedes to pit first. Sorry, on going on to the last stint. I would see whether I needed to pit again, because if I wasn't going to take the chance of pitting if they wasn't. And then it was just really controlling it, keeping the penalties to a minimum, just not making any mistakes, just driving consistently, and yeah, it paid off, I guess.
It was a great race from you, and Knight, I'll let you take over for the next.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, before we move on here, Lewis, great race. That was an absolutely great drive from you.
Thank you.
Good call on the strategies and everything. I have nothing but good words. We didn't see much of you on stream, and it was all for the right reasons.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Mr. Kuehl had a great battle with your teammate there. Can you hear us here?
Yes.
Yeah, Noah, if you could just make sure we can hear him on stream there. But Mr. Kuehl, yeah, took a lot of penalties here during this race. It ended up kind of biting you back in the end there as you lost the podium to your teammate. What do you think you could have done differently, and how do you think this is going to affect the championship?
First of all, congrats to Lewis to his outstanding performance. It was very, very fast.
Cheers, thank you.
Couldn't keep up with him at all, I think, the first time, but yeah, I just can be disappointed because, I don't know, my strategy didn't work out. I practiced the whole week on underfueling the car, underfueled the car of 3 laps. I started with 32 laps of fuel, and I was always in the first sector, in the first stint until the hairpin, always on lean, and I thought it would be okay from the pace-wise there, but I lost most of the time there, and so my pace was rubbish there. And I think mid of the race, I got a contact with Cruz. I think it's a racing incident. Could be this, could be that. Nothing special. But yeah, then at the end, I got 5 laps to go. The last 5 laps, I got wing damage, and then it fell all over and together in the bad wise. And
yeah, it was a tough one. I think actually you might still just have the lead in this championship by a point or 2, but coming into the last race, it's going to be extremely close. Yeah, is there anything that you got to keep in mind from today going into next week's race?
Yeah, until my wing damage, I thought, okay, I'm fast enough to get away with the penalties and still in front of Yediant. Could be, would be, I don't know. But yeah, I think he's gonna take the table on the first place, I think. Yeah. But anyway, the last race is gonna be intense. It's all about his smoothness that he has and my pace that I have. So it's coming in the middle, or I don't know. It's gonna be
absolutely.
Crazy.
Yeah, no safety car as well today to help you out with that fuel strategy. Clean race from everybody, and I have to think that that kind of came to spoil our plans as well. No safety car, no VSC.
Of course, imagine last few races, last few laps, imagine there's a safety car, then I'm in the last place.
That would have been a very different race. Well, great race to you. That was some fantastic driving.
Thank you very much.
And let's talk to Jedi Ant. Jedi, you had a pretty good race. It was a little bit of a sleeper for you maybe in the first half of the race, but after those penalties started racking up for Mr. Cool, I'm sure you were keeping on tabs on that. You knew you had to pick up the pace, and you were possibly going to get on the podium today, and here you are with a podium after the penalties.
Oh, Jedi, we don't hear you on stream here, so you just gonna have to go quickly change your sharing settings. If you go in the party screen, you'll be able to do that. Yes, yeah, exactly. Party settings, and then.
Is that better now? I'm not sure if that's better
should
or not.
Be, yeah. If you leave it on always loud, it should work.
Okay, yeah, I was just saying that congrats to Lewis. He did a great job. I mean, he taught us all a thing or two, especially in qualifying. Qualifying was tough. Qualifying in the wet, it's always tricky. But it was quite a boring race for me. My strategy all along was to kind of keep it clean, keep it safe, not get any penalties, and it paid off in the end. As you saw, Mr. Cool had quite a few penalties, and for me, it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, you did a great job there. One of 2 drivers not to get any penalties during this race. Fallen Monkeys being the other one, and you both gained a position or 2 crossing the line. But yeah, next week, I think you're coming in. You're either a point ahead or a point behind. We'll have to do the math there once we enter the standings. But what's your mindset going into this final race in the USA?
To have some Budweiser, I think.
Yeah. Got to celebrate in with the homeland style, you know.
Exactly. I don't know. Just,
well, I think we can get some better. We can get some better beer for you in America. You don't have to take Budweiser.
It's the only American beer I'm aware of, but I know you guys do some nice craft beer actually, which is very good and very drinkable.
No, we can definitely get you something better than Budweiser. Anything with Bud in the
Bud Light or Coors, you know.
Well, I don't think Bud Light's the right choice either. Knight doesn't really know what he's talking about, but. But nonetheless, it was nonetheless.
Maybe Mr. Cool will celebrate with some German beer instead. But
maybe
we'll have to see.
Well, it depends who wins the championship, right?
Maybe.
Exactly.
Well,
I think he's a favorite.
Jedi Ant, it was a fantastic drive from you. It was a fantastic drive from Mr. Cool and Lewis as well. Again, an absolute masterclass performance. One of the best races I've seen from you, and actually in any league race. The fantastic drive, and you should be very proud of yourself with this win.
Thank you.
And thank you to everybody who joined us in the stream today. It was a fantastic Canadian Grand Prix. Make sure to join us next week, and make sure to join us in just a few moments for the Tier 1 Canadian Grand Prix. Will Sweet Crown win 6 in a row? We kind of hope not, because we want to update some of the graphics. But as we get set for action here, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. My name is IGKX. I was joined by ISRL Knight in the commentary booth. You've been watching ISRL Esports for the Tier 2 Championship in Formula 1. So much thank yous for joining, and have yourselves a wonderful afternoon.